Hey everyone, this is your friendly neighborhood editor speaking. The DOOPists are working with some new equipment for this one, and the audio gets a little distorted in spots. I have corrected it as much as I could, and I apologize for any inconvenience this might cause you, but please try to tough it out because this is a great one. Alright, on with the show.
Hey there, welcome to the Doop Movie Podcast. My name is Keith.
My name is Brian.
And today we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh god, I love this movie so much.
I like it too. I like it very much. You know, I saw it in theaters back when it premiered.
Me too.
Roughly around that time. And I haven't seen it since. And like I've been familiar with it, following it whenever it won awards, which, well deserved. And video essays like describing its greatness, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's pretty great, And then I just never really, ventured into watching it again. It was on Netflix, and one day it wasn't, and I was like, oh my goodness, I need to find a way to watch this, But,
you watched it again, and it just sort of clicked.
Yeah. I loved it the first time. Don't get me wrong. Like, just the visual art style by itself, that's.
I have many things to say about that. Yeah,
and you will. You will get into that. We get into the movie. The introduction of it was by the OG Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Peter Parker himself.
Yeah, well, the OG for this universe.
Of course, obviously, right, and we get into that because there's something that they get that like he words it like, I am the one and only Spider-Man, pretty much.
I'm the only Spider-Man. I'm Spider-Man. I'm the one and only Spider-Man. No, there's only one Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it.
Yeah.
Right? Interestingly, voiced by Chris Pine.
Yes.
Yeah. They did not use the same voice. I thought they did at first until I looked up some background information. They did not use the same voice for him and for Peter B. Parker, the kind of old, broke hobo Spider-Man, as he's referred to in the movie.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this was it was released in December of 2018, and it was directed by Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman, and it was Perichetti's and Rothman's feature film debut. And they won the Oscar, the Golden Globe, and the Director's Choice Awards, all for Best Animated Film.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they won the Annie Award as well, but I didn't look into those details.
The what award?
Annie's. The Annie Award, they specifically award animated features.
I didn't look that up, but it probably won. I mean, it took the technical Oscars. So
yeah, I mean, that's incredible. Like, this movie is great.
It had a $90 million budget, and it was the highest grossing Sony animated film ever.
Wow.
It was it grossed $375 million.
Is that domestic or worldwide?
That's worldwide.
Yeah, that's great.
That's not counting home movie sales, where it has really picked up steam.
I'm sure.
It did $35 million in its opening weekend, which is the highest ever December opening for an animated film, barely edging out Polar Express.
That's awesome. Like, it's a better Christmas movie than Polar Express for.
It's not even a Christmas
reasons.
movie.
Exactly. Right. Precisely.
There is they're talking about the background of it. A lot of cool stuff. Sony did a lot of cool little ancillary, however you pronounce that, projects with it. Mm-hmm. Like they're in production for a Spider-Ham TV series, right? Starring John Mulaney.
Yeah.
Who played the spectacular Spider-Ham.
Of course.
And we'll get into the characters in a minute.
Yeah.
The joke from the beginning of the film, the Spider-Man Christmas album, Sony actually released that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah. It was released on December 21st of 2018, and it stars Shamik Moore, Jake Johnson, and Chris Pine. Mm-hmm. They all do voice recordings for it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've listened to it, yeah.
I've listened to parts of it.
Yeah.
I don't actually own the album, but when I discovered this morning that it existed, I intend to buy it.
Yeah, I bet. So, yeah.
The composer was Daniel Pemberton, and there wasn't a lot of incidental score for this movie.
Right, there's a lot of licensed music to be used.
Yeah, but that's not grading it down.
No.
Like, the licensed music was used very well.
Yes.
Especially What's Up Danger.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a hip-hop fan.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't hate it.
Right.
But it's not my go-to listening choice. But What's Up Danger is one of my favorite songs.
You know.
And, we'll get into why in a bit. But the screenplay was Phil Lord and also Rodney Rothman. There was originally supposed to be a romance between Miles and Gwen Stacy in this movie. And it got cut because it interfered with the flow of the film, according to the directors.
Right.
And then producer, and I want to point this out for like a feminism win. Producer Christina Steinberg on the film, who was a Sony producer, fought super hard to keep Gwen Stacy in the movie. Because after they cut the romance plot, Sony wanted to either curtail her role way down or cut her out of the film entirely. Like, oh, what good is a woman character if they're not going to have a love interest?
Oh, wow.
Right? Which was the attitude. But she fought hard, and Gwen is a major character.
Good on her.
She has the second or third most screen time in the movie.
Absolutely. I mean, this movie does a lot for representation for like numerous people. Of course.
Miles Morales is voiced by Shamik Moore. Miles is a Latino and African American character, voiced by Shamik Moore, and I don't know what Shamik's ethnicity is, but it doesn't matter because his voice is perfect for the role.
Absolutely.
Then there's the Spider. Look, we already talked about the Spider-Man for this. The universe this movie is set in was voiced by Chris Pine, and he didn't make it.
Spoilers.
Yeah. The old broke Spider-Man is voiced by Jake Johnson.
Yeah.
And then I'll do their voice actors as we get to them in the plot synopsis.
Yeah. So basically, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to get the introduction to this, from the OG Spider-Man, Peter Parker himself. And he's going over the history of Spider-Man, which there's a little touch of, like, Deadpool meta, taste to it. Like, he's referring to all of his past movies and everything that he's done. Yeah. So on and so forth.
Like, specifically the dance scene from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I was like, this happened, for sure. After that happened, eventually it transitions into Miles Morales. He's listening to Sunflower, which is one of the licensed music done by Post Malone. It was it was a hit around the time, and it was a great song in general. It's very soothing, very soothing hip hop. But he's drawing, and he draws on stickers, and eventually on his way to school, he's a student. He walks down the street and he's like tagging, signs and such with like little stickers, and like he's a graffiti artist, So he wanted to express himself. And then his father is a cop, and his father picked him up and gave him a ride to school, and of course he's embarrassed by this. Like, oh, my father's doing all this.
Voiced by Brian Tyree Henry.
Yeah.
He was one of the guys from Transformers.
Yes. He was also in Atlanta.
Excuse me.
Oh, you're good. He was also in Atlanta as one of Charles Gambino's, friends. Well, he was, Paperboy himself. He's been in a few other films recently. He's gonna be in The Immortals at some point this year. He was just in Godzilla vs. Kong as the podcaster. So there's a lot of history with him. He wasn't. I did see this. He wasn't going to do that role because he would have been a father of a teenager, apparently, because he's only 35 at the time.
Right.
But
I'm 35 and I'm the father of a teenager. I'm 38. Oh God, I'm old. Oh God,
you're so old. Well, you're 38. That's different.
True.
But I mean, that's what he said. After he understood the history of Miles Morales, he was like, okay, I definitely want to be the father figure now, for sure. And
so he plays it very understated.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of he puts a lot of emotion into a voice without a lot of range, and that's not saying that he doesn't have range,
right?
But he kept it he kept a small range for the character, but he puts a lot of emotion into it, and that's, for a voice actor, that's real hard to do.
Absolutely. So
props to that guy.
Absolutely, yeah. he drops him off, at school, and he was like, "I love you," and he's like, "Yeah, I'll see you Friday," and then he pulled on the siren, so it was like, "You have to say it back," and he was like announcing it in front of all the other kids, and of course he's embarrassed even more so.
Yeah.
I was like, if he had just said it, after he was leaving, he didn't have to do that, but You know, of course, he's a teenager.
Keep this scene in mind, because there's a callback to it later, much later, that is really good.
There's a lot of callbacks. There's a lot of references to the same movie. Like, it's this movie does that so well. But yeah, he's going to school, and he has to write an essay on Great Expectations. Not really of the film himself, of the book itself, but, you know, about what he has for himself.
Well, the essay is actually, like, punishment.
Yeah.
Because he failed the test.
Yeah.
But he got every question wrong.
Yes. Like,
on a true-false. And the teacher points out, you know, the only way you could get every single question wrong on a true-false is if you knew what the answers were.
Yeah, exactly. And that's great, too. Like, this movie does a lot of great things with visuals. Like, it's a 0 over 100, but then, like, while she was explaining that, she just put the 1 next to the 0 and the other 0 next to the other one. So,
yeah,
you know, that was very clever. It was definitely good to forward that idea.
He's been transferred to the school, which is like the school for gifted kids.
Yeah, like elitist, you know.
Yeah, and he doesn't like it. He wants to go back to his friends, back to his school, but, you know, this is the kind of place where it shows that he is as smart as, you know, Peter Parker has to be. He's not Peter Parker, but like, Spider-Man is a scientist. You know, he designed his own web shooters. He figured out his powers. And it's a good way to show that Miles is right up there, intellectually speaking, with where Parker was.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, and like, you know, there's something else too. During that, there was a class, you know, where he was late for it, and you know, Dr. Octavius is in the background. You know, she'll come into play later. Talking about multiple universes and such, and then he sits next to this girl who he doesn't know her name yet.
And we don't see that it's Dr. Octopus either.
No, exactly. Well, but it's, you know, Dr. Octavia.
Yeah.
You know,
Olivia Octavius. Yeah.
Yeah, Olivia is Octavius. You know, which is great.
But it's just a scientist from Alchemex.
Yes.
Which is a reference to the Spider-Man 2099 universe.
Yes.
Because Alchemex is the big company that he has to fight. You know. And spoilers for later.
It's at the about 9.5 minute mark, we meet, you know, Uncle Aaron. You know, he's obviously like the more so the morally ambiguous influence in his life. You know, he takes him to this spot where he can graffiti to his liking.
Yeah, down in the subway.
You know, down to the subway. You know, and he's voiced by Mahershala Ali, I think.
Mm-hmm. You know? Mahershala Ali, and he's great in his role.
Oh yeah.
This is a star-making performance if he wasn't already a star.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he didn't already win the Oscar 2 years beforehand, you know, he's definitely going to win it soon.
Oh yeah.
You know, but after that, at the 13.5 minute mark, there's a Spider 43. I'm curious about what the relevance of that number is. Maybe this is like the 43rd universe that this radioactive spider has visited or something. But
I don't know the actual comic reference, but the spider glitches in the way that the other spider people do later. So it's obviously from an alternate universe.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it's from Universe 043. Because all the universes in the Marvel Comics continuity have a 3-digit code. Right. The main Marvel Comics continuity is Universe 616.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's like 624 or something like that is the MCU. Mm-hmm. Like the MCU exists in the comics as an alternate Marvel universe.
Okay. And
they've had crossovers. You know. So.
But yeah, the spider bites him, and of course he just brushes it off like it's not a huge thing on the outside, but on the inside, oh, it's great too. Like, you know, you see the venom go in and it, like, goes through his entire vein system. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, this movie does a lot with color, and I love it very much.
Yeah, well, if you want to get into the visuals real quick, when you say it does a lot with color,
yes,
they rewrote the rendering engine for this movie. In the same way they did for Interstellar. A normal 3D rendering engine, light is a linear thing. It shines in a straight line, mm-hmm. right? For Interstellar, they rewrote it to compensate for gravity because they were all around a black hole.
Yeah.
Which did some really interesting stuff. But for this movie, they cut out all the motion blur. There's no motion blur. There's no shaders. It's all done through comic visualizations. So, like, motion blur is accomplished through... pause. So, all right, what I was saying, they don't use motion blur, and they don't use shaders like they do in a normal movie. It's all replaced with comic book effects. So motion blur, as things move, and as they move away from the camera, they get what's called offset printed, like you see in older comic books. So like the red, the yellow, and the red, the green, and the blue kind of offset from each other for the straight lines.
Yeah,
and it makes it look less and less in focus, even though everything stays in focus.
Okay.
Right. And for when things are in motion, right, there's a lot of that used, and the faster it goes, the less detail you get, but you never lose fidelity, right? You never lose a sense of what it is. You just get less and less details, to where in the fastest movement, like when he's swinging from the train and stuff, all you see is shapes.
Yeah.
Right, but the colors never change, and it never blurs. And it's so striking to look at, because you don't realize what it's doing until you've seen it, a second time, and you're like, oh, that's so weird. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick does a thing, or had a saying, where he wants to get it right, and his mantra for movie making was every frame a painting. Yeah. Right, everything has to be perfect.
Yeah,
that's true for me. For Into the Spider-Verse, there is not a single frame from this movie that I would not gladly have as my desktop background for my computer. Mm-hmm. Even the credits are cool as hell.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
And we'll get into all the dots and stuff later as we get into more of the stuff. But the way the characters are animated, because each of the Spider people are animated slightly differently.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll get into that when we get there. So.
His art that he put on the background was No Expectations, which is kind of like a look into, how he views himself, like he doesn't have any good expectations for himself at this stage, Later on,
he's like 16,
exactly, right? Exactly. Like it's the way of the teenager. The day after, he talks again with the same girl, he sat next to the day before, and he's trying to get used to like the sticky nature that he's like developed, overnight.
Yeah, because he develops the spider powers.
Unknowing really what it is,
But the first thing he sticks to is Gwen.
Yeah.
The girl.
Yeah. Which she didn't tell him that her name was Gwen at first.
She said her name was Gwanda.
Gwanda, and she was like, Gwanda? I was like, yeah, it's South African. I don't have the accent from here. So like it's obviously bullshit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he stuck to Gwen, Wanda. Because of the soldier touch
which he learned from his Uncle Aaron.
He learned from Uncle Aaron about 10 minutes back.
He put your hand on the shoulder and go, hey.
Yeah, like very suave, trying to just, coerce further conversation. And then it just sucks through her hair, and it's just,
yeah, and
it's so awkward. Such an awkward.
It's really funny. And what's also really striking for the scene is his internal monologue is showing up as comic voiceover panels.
Yeah.
For this whole scene.
Now it's doing it.
Yeah, after he was bitten.
Now the comics, it's actually coming to life, And I was like, why is my voice so loud? Why
are my thoughts so loud?
But after that, it got stuck to her hair, and then he was trying to pull it off, and was like, no, don't do that. So
And the first clue for who she is when she says, you have to relax. You have to just relax, and it'll come loose.
Yeah, like she knows what's going on.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's taken out of context. She could just be a regular person saying the exact same thing, After that, he still unsure about himself. He goes out and about, which he wasn't supposed to do anyway. Like, he's not supposed to leave the premises, and he,
you need chased by a security guard for a second. Yeah, the school, like, security officer or whatever.
Yeah, and it was a great moment, too. And I was like, oh, play dumb. Who's Morellas? Not that dumb.
Yeah. Love it.
And he hides in his office for a little bit, and of course the Christmas album was playing, which is great. And then he escapes. He makes his way to the street, and he found his way back to the same subway just to see, was like, okay, if I see this spider, maybe this is, like I can wrap my head around this thing.
Yeah, no, it's like, I can't be Spider-Man. There's already a Spider-Man. I'm going to find the spider, it's going to be a normal spider, and this is just puberty, and,
Exactly. Like Puberty 2, I guess, or Puberty 1.5,
Yeah. It's the beta version of the new Puberty.
That's it.
It hasn't been released yet to the public.
Yeah, nobody else experiences it, but...
Yeah.
And then he sees, Spider-Man. Yeah, like, the Peter Parker Spider-Man, fighting Norman, a.k.a. the...
Ultimate Green Goblin.
Yeah,
because this is based off the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah.
The Ultimate Marvel Comics universe. And this guy is voiced by Chris Pine, who, short role that it is, he does really well with it.
Yes.
But Chris Pine is a consummate voice actor. He does a lot of good stuff.
Really?
Well, he's a consummate actor. I couldn't find if he'd done any other voice work.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
But he's really good at vocal control. Like, if you've ever seen him... if you ever want to see the difference, watch the original Wonder Woman and then the Star Trek 2009 reboot.
Okay.
And they're two very different performances, even though he's the leading man in both performances.
Right.
And his voice is almost entirely different for each one. It's the same voice, but like the mannerisms are different.
Okay.
So he's really good at like controlling little quirks and stuff to make a character his own.
Okay.
So like the go-to scene from this movie for him is when he gets up to the top of the collider, because that's the subway connects to the collider.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where Miles runs into him because he hears the fight happening.
Yes. He
gets to the top of the collider and there's like machines spinning over his head, and he goes, "I am so tired."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they meet. Prior to the second part of the fight, where Prowler also joins the fight.
Yeah, and Prowler is scary in this movie.
Oh my god.
He doesn't like his first appearance doesn't look scary. He looks kind of goofy with like the big tall Dracula cape and stuff.
But like his claw is enough. Like that's...
Well, yeah, but it's the score.
Yeah.
This is where it's where the score. I thought there's not a lot of it, but where it shows up is important.
Yes. And
Prowler's score is amazing. This like industrial sound. It's like an alarm going off that's been like put through filters and stuff. It's genuinely unnerving.
Yes.
And then the way he moves is scary.
Yeah.
He looks goofy standing there for the first shot, but then when he starts moving, my thoughts went from, "Oh, that's funny," to, "Oh, shit."
Yeah, that panther's coming after you for sure. Yeah. Like, Kingpin is watching the whole time. This is all Kingpin's doing.
Yeah.
She's trying to, open up parallel universes for whatever reason.
Which we'll get to, yeah.
Which we will get to. And then there's a huge explosion. Like, apparently Spider-Man does what he does best, and he, nips it in the bud before anything happened to the world.
He damages the machine, but he doesn't destroy it.
Right, which, he needs to go back to it eventually, or find, someone to
Well,
go
the
back
thing
to
is,
it
he,
eventually.
I forget if it's Prowler or Goblin that notices Miles and goes after him during that fight.
That was Prowler.
That's Prowler.
Yeah, that's Prowler.
And Peter is, like, right there at the machine, going to destroy it, sees that Miles is in trouble, and devotes a web shot, whatever you call it, to saving him.
Yeah.
Which gets him knocked off his butt and leads to what happens next.
Yeah, there's a blackout, and Spider-Man gives the override key, which goes by other names, which we'll cover later on, to stop the collider.
Yeah. You have to go up there, take this, you have to swing up there, you gotta put it in there and turn off the collider, otherwise the whole city could be destroyed.
Which doesn't look like a house key, it looks like a flash drive, but that's basically, the key, technologically speaking.
Well, I work in IT, so a flash drive that's called a key is not uncommon, because a lot of people use like a flash drive as a key for a secure computer.
Correct.
If you don't plug your flash drive into it, then it won't boot, you won't be able to use it. So
yeah, Kingpin finally, catches up to him, and he kills him.
Yep.
He
smashes him.
Yeah,
like Hulk smashes the dude, just crushes his chest.
He is so imposing. Vincent D'Onofrio was pretty imposing in Daredevil, but this guy takes it to another level. Goodness gracious.
Yep. Kingpin was voiced by Liev Schreiber.
Mm-hmm.
And he does the voice really well, but the animation for Kingpin is, this dude is built like a brick shit house stacked on top of another brick shit house.
That's it.
He's like 7 feet wide.
Yeah.
Like, he is huge.
Yeah, like his shoulders are above his head. There's no neck to speak of. You know, it's terrible.
You know, he would have trouble fitting through a double door.
That's
like, this
sure.
is how big this dude is.
Yeah.
And he smashes Spider-Man just dead.
Yeah. After that, of course, Kingpin noticed that Miles is in the room, so he sends Prowler after him. And Miles makes his escape, and he goes home, and he sneaks in his door window, and his father's like, "Oh, it's the cops. Who is this?" I was like, "Oh, Miles, what's going on?"
Yeah.
Like he's having this whole mental breakdown, pretty much based on what he just saw, and then he was reaffirming. He was like, "Dad, do you really?" Because he's as a cop, so he doesn't like vigilantes going out there doing their thing.
Yeah.
It was like, "Dad, do you really hate Spider-Man?" I was like, "Well, I don't know what else to tell you. It's just the truth." And then he goes to sit down, and then newsflash, oh, Spider-Man is dead now. And it's just this whole sad scene. Everybody is reacting to it.
Like the whole city, everyone's phones lights up, and there's the billboards all light up. Spider-Man found dead. It's this, because in this universe he's not hated. People love Spider-Man in this universe.
Right.
And he's got a studio album. He's the popular Spider-Man.
Yeah. And after that, he goes to a shop. And he buys some merchandise.
Yeah, Miles does, yeah.
Miles buys a Spider-Man suit. And who do you think the store clerk is but Stan Lee himself in the best cameo he has ever done. The best cameo. I will not hear otherwise. Because it's so involved with the storyline. It happened just after his passing.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm really gonna miss him. He was he was a good friend of mine, and it's so much.
It's a great cameo. It really is, especially because it's like, can I bring it back if it doesn't fit? He's like, it always fits eventually.
Yeah.
And he says it super creepy, like, you're not getting a refund.
That's it.
But in reality,
because there was a sign that says no refunds next to him too.
Yeah, but in reality, he's telling the kid, yeah, it'll fit eventually when you're ready.
Yeah.
Like the
it's like the double meanings there, obviously.
Yeah, and one of Stan Lee's quotes, and actually they showed this at the end of the credits, is, "The person who helps others simply because it should or must be done, and because it is the right thing to do, is indeed, without doubt, a real superhero."
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if you have powers, it doesn't matter if you're special, anyone can be a superhero.
Or if you got bit by a radioactive spider. Or not.
Or pig. As the case may be.
Right. It's...
and that's like the whole thesis of the film, is anyone can be a hero.
Right. And say what you will about other Spider-Man movies, some of them are wonderful. This is the movie that really gets that really understands that and drives that message home, for sure.
Yeah, it's not the powers that make Spider-Man a hero, it's the willingness to step up and help people when they need help.
Yeah, and the fact, we'll get into more of that later on. So he's still trying to figure out more of his powers. He's trying to jump off buildings and, swing a web and, somewhat. And he falls and he breaks the key.
There's one thing I want to interject here. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
In getting into the visuals, because I love the visuals of this movie.
Of course.
The onomatopoeia, which is like the words that symbolize sound effects, right?
Yeah.
Of him falling. He's falling out of the sky, and you see the A-H-H as he falls, right? This is mirrored again later, and we'll get to it later. Mm-hmm. But it's a great little kind of a bit that's funny.
Yeah,
it's just, this movie is full of little tidbits that are just great.
Absolutely, like this film is a comic book.
Yeah, it's a comic book come to life.
And
I would even go so far as to say that this film is nothing but career-making best shots. Any single shot from this film, if it was in any other film, would be the best shot in that film.
Yeah, it's a film full of money shots.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
He breaks the key, and he visited, Peter Parker's grave, and it's like sort of like, oh, I broke this thing you just gave me, and I'm so terrible, so on and so forth.
I can't do this,
just doubting himself. And then this guy comes up behind him, and he discovered that he has this electric power.
He's like, "Hey, kid," and he puts his hand on his shoulder, and then he gets like tased, blasted with electricity.
Yeah, like he was surprised, for sure, because he wasn't expecting anybody behind him at this moment. And then who do we see here but Peter B. Parker,
voiced by Jake Johnson, who is really good.
Yes.
He's more over the top than Chris Pine's,
of course,
but he's also kind of done with everything.
Right.
Which his characterization is he's sort of the old washed up Spider-Man. He's been doing it for longer.
Yeah, he's jaded. He's
he's
divorced.
He's
He's divorced. Aunt May is dead. But like and then they do a callback to the introduction where Peter Parker, introduced everything. I'm the one and only Spider-Man. Peter B. Parker was like, I'm the one and only Spider-Man. He's from a different universe, obviously.
It's like the comic book equivalent of, like that trope in TV or movies where they show like newspaper headlines stacking on top of one another.
Yes.
But it does it with comic books.
Yes. Which is great in and of itself.
And each of the Spider people in this movie gets their own introduction.
Absolutely.
Even Miles in the end, which is good.
Yeah, which is great. So yeah, he goes into his history. He's he's washed up. He's jaded. He's
He's old jank broke Spider-Man. Old jank broke hobo Spider-Man.
Yeah.
As Miles calls him at one point.
He's also fat too. Which,
he's a little thick.
A little thick. But he was transported to Miles' reality after all that hubbub happened. Earlier in the movie
with the collider,
with the blackout, the collider, and such. And so he's in their world, and he experiencing atom glitches every now and again.
Yeah, like
because he's not allowed to be there. He's not supposed to be there.
Did you ever watch Wreck-It Ralph?
I did.
He glitches like Penelope glitches.
Yes.
And that's something you find that happens to anyone who's outside of the things. And I can see it in your eyes, and yes, we should totally do Wreck-It Ralph for another episode.
Oh, I love the movie so much.
I love her too. It's a great movie.
Oh my gosh.
But it causes him pain when he glitches. Like he falls off a building because he glitched out.
Yeah. Thankfully he survives that.
Yeah.
But and like Miles is trying to talk him into it. It's like, well, you're gonna have to help me out because even though this key is broken, I still need to go up and see whatever's going on with the collider, so on and so forth. It's like, well,
I made promises.
I was like, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
And then eventually he does want to.
Yeah, because Miles is also like, you got to show me the ropes, man.
It's like, I don't know.
First lesson, kid. Watch the mouth, not the hands.
Yeah. He has him tied up, and he's obviously getting himself out of there. So that's.
Well, we're skipping a scene. I think it's
probably
the subway chase.
Yeah.
Well, not the chase, but like the L train, where he knocks out Peter Parker with his electroshock, his Venom strike.
Right.
As it's called
Oh
later.
my God. Yes.
And then he's like, "You gotta wake up!" and accidentally sets off the dude's web shooter.
Yeah. which
latches onto a subway or to an elevated train and starts dragging him across New York.
Yeah, but this is one of the great visual moments of the movie too.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
Like
this is where that motion blur I was talking about comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, like he's dragging him across the road. He goes into like a snowman. He has a snow head. Temporarily, and that was wonderful.
At one point, Peter B. Parker wakes up and he's like, "Why are you trying to kill me? I'm not. I'm trying to save you." Smashes his head again. Knocks it out again.
Yeah, that's great.
And then they fall, and it's really funny, but it's a little bit. They finally break off the train and fall to the ground in the middle of a crosswalk.
Yeah.
And like Peter B. is still unconscious, and Miles is like, "Can you guys maybe, because it's a crowded crosswalk." Right. Can you guys maybe step around us? And people are like kicking him out of the way.
Right. Yeah, all right, good New York, yeah.
Thanks, New York.
Yeah. But eventually they make their way to the Alchemax infiltration.
Well, they go to a diner.
First, right, yeah. He has a couple of burgers,
Yeah, and then they kind of talk about, he calls it a goober.
Yes, he calls
the override key.
Goober.
He's like, there's always an override key or a fail-safe key or a blah, 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 or I don't care key, so I'm just going to call it a goober.
Goober, yep. Yeah, which is a great name for it, for sure,
And so he's like, so look up where Alchemex is so we can
go there,
steal what the
steal
original Spider-Man stole and make another one.
Pretty much.
And he's like, well, it's out in Hudson Valley. Oh, you can teach me how to swing on the way there.
Yeah, great, right?
Smash cut to a bus.
Yeah. Your legs are going to thank me. Trust me.
You don't want to swing out to Hudson Valley.
Swing
Dude,
over there.
after a burger breakfast? You gotta be... you're good. It's fine.
Absolutely. Especially a 2-burger breakfast. Yeah. You know. But they get there. He's there. I have a line here. Spider-Man doesn't wear a cape. Like, apparently, like, he got part of his costume, but, like, he tried to add a cape to it, and it was like, well, Spider-Man doesn't wear a cape. Where's he wear a cape?
Yeah.
That's disrespectful.
Yeah, it's disrespectful. Spider-Man doesn't wear capes. Well, I think it's cool.
I think it's cool. Yeah. They go into Alchemax. Alchemax? Am I even saying it right?
Alchemax.
Alchemax.
Yeah, and I think it's Peter B goes in alone. He's like, you're going to be lookout. Right. Because he doesn't know this kid very well. He doesn't really want to show him the ropes.
Yeah.
But he's like, break in, get the password, get the information I need for a new goober, select a bagel.
That's it.
Break out.
Yeah.
Right. This is the plan. Watch and learn, kid. I'll quiz you later. And he swings off. And then Miles is like, I can't let him do this alone.
Yeah.
Because he sees Kingpin roll up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because he knows what Kingpin has done.
Yeah.
He has seen what Kingpin has done.
So he infiltrates and he catches up to. I'm jumping into the plot thing here. I'm sorry. This is my spoiler warning. This is one of my favorite movies ever. So I've seen it a million times.
Yeah.
He catches up to Peter B. Parker and he's like, I can't let Spider-Man die again.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and that's a big thing too. You know, eventually they're in the same room. You know, he's trying to download the information, and then he turns invisible for whatever reason. Miles turns invisible. Like he discovered this new power. You know, it doesn't really seem like it would coincide with a spider person, but here we are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's electric and invisible. And he can still swing, you know, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, he's got the spider sense, he's got the strength, he's got the sticking to walls.
Right, he's got the rudimentary powers, but they add some stuff to, you know, really spice it up.
Yeah.
You know, so the Dr. Octavius comes into the room, and, you know, he was talking with Peter B. Parker, because, of course, Miles is invisible.
Right.
So he's trying to, you know, log on to the laptop, the information to get everything that he needs to make a new goober.
Yeah, she like immediately recognizes that this is Spider-Man from another universe.
You know, it was like, oh my gosh, like she's fangirling, you know, about this experience, you know, and eventually has him tied up, put on a chair.
This is one of my favorite line deliveries in the movie too.
You know,
is the you mind if I just do this real quick? She goes like, you know, complete cellular degeneration. If you stay in this universe too long, your whole body's going to disintegrate. You know how painful that's going to be? And then she, like, puts on her goggles, and she goes, I can't wait to see it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's just evil incarnate. Like, it's such a wonderful villain, too.
Super intimate. Great delivery.
Yeah.
This is Catherine Hahn.
Yes.
As Dr. Octavius.
Mm-hmm.
Which you don't see that yet. Well, you're about to.
Right.
Because after she says that I can't wait to watch, he said, "Who are you again?"
Yeah.
And that's when she's like, "I'm Dr. Olivia Octavius."
Mm-hmm.
And then her balloon arms pop out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not metal arms like Doc Ock from the regular universe. It's these like weird balloon things that are really weird and cool, and I really like them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing that I really want to get into later,
mm-hmm.
where he's like, let me guess, your friends call you Doc Ock? And she jams an arm right up in his neck and starts choking him. And you can see like the bubble go through the arm as it tightens around his neck. It's great. And she's like, no, my friends call me Liv. My enemies call me Doc Ock.
You know, that was wonderful too. Eventually, Miles, you know, got all the information that he needed. And they make their escape through this wonderful chase sequence out of the building.
Yeah, through like this beautiful forest.
You know,
right where he's like he's learning.
I do want to touch on something before we get before we get outside.
Okay.
You know, inside the building.
Okay.
You know, whenever they actually chose the bagel.
Yeah, they get there.
And then it's like, okay, now
mess hall.
Yeah. Now we're gonna do a little switch, and like all the everybody in the mess hall They just look like doctors. They don't look like
Yeah.
they can do anything, but everybody's got a weapon, so everybody's
they all
shooting
pull out
after them.
Yeah, they all pull out like this gigantic assortment of ray guns and stuff.
You know, so Peter B. Parker's like, okay, switcheroo.
Yeah.
You know, takes the information.
He hands Miles the bagel.
Hands Miles the bagel, and then Miles throws the bagel. It hits somebody on the head, and then bagel. You know, the word bagel popped up right next to it. And I was like, oh my god, it's so perfect.
The use of onomatopoeia in this film is... We could do a whole podcast on just that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, after that happened, you know, they go through the forest, which, again, you know, it's gorgeous. Like
I'm nodding like the listeners can hear you.
You know, right, yes.
I'm sorry.
Hear the nods. Yes.
I'm grinning at Keith and nodding as he talks. Like, yeah, this is great. But you guys don't know that, so I'm gonna...
I mean, that is an assumption that you guys should make anyway.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the both of them are swipping together. They're swinging through the woods, and then they have a little rhythm, you know, but then Peter
Whip and release. Whip and release. and it's actually, you know, Miles is getting the hang of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And then, you know, Peter Parker has a little glitch.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, then both of them fall. Dr. Octopus catches up to them.
And now she's got saw blades on 2 of her forearms.
Yes.
Which is really cool and intimidating.
Yes. And then, you know,
like her entrance in the scene is all you see is like the goopy balloon hands grab around a tree.
Yeah.
Then a saw blade pokes through the middle of it, and then pokes to the bottom of it, and then the tree rips in half and is tossed to the side, and she comes through giggling like a little schoolgirl.
Mm-hmm.
It's really great.
And then Spider-Gwen makes her appearance.
Yes.
You know, she was in the building beforehand. Like they passed each other. Like you saw the back of her hair or something.
Well, they knocked her down as they were running away, and then she looked up at the camera and goes, "Oh." Like, and you can see it was her because it's the same. It's the girl from Miles' school.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. With the hair where his hand got caught.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And she reveals herself as Gwen Stacy, the spectacular Spider-Woman.
That's it. She was also transported to the universe throughout the exact same effect that Peter B. Parker also transported throughout that universe.
Voiced by Haley Steinfeld. Mm-hmm. And it is, we already talked about the whole, they fought hard to keep her in the movie.
Yes, absolutely.
And such a good
thing they did. Yeah. Like that makes this the better movie for sure. Like, her inclusion, you know, not even in a romantic sense, just as a representation, you know, factor.
Well, and also she's a really good counterpoint to Miles.
Absolutely.
Like music, everyone in this movie has their own theme,
mm-hmm.
right? Miles is the Post Malone, you know, and then later once he accepts the role of Spider-Man, What's Up Danger
mm-hmm.
is his theme. But Gwen, who in the comics is in a band, a punk rock band, her theme is very punk rock inspired,
mm-hmm.
right? So during her little comic books popping on top of each other, you know, and this is her introduction, her superhero introduction. She talks about I joined a band, I lost my best friend, or I couldn't save my best friend because in her universe, Peter Parker was the one that died.
Yeah.
Right. He was actually the Lizard. He turned himself into the Lizard, and she had to kill him.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. He turned himself into the Lizard, and she had to fight him to a standstill to stop him. And she hit him so hard that he turned back into a human. And as a human, his injuries were too much, and he died in her arms.
Huh.
Yeah, that's her Uncle Ben moment. So,
yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah, it is.
As someone else that we'll get to later would say, it's a hardcore origin story.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. You know, and like they show some pictures of, you know, some of that stuff that he was describing, but they don't really like go into that. You know, specifically like the lizard and everything else.
No, they don't talk about it, but they show it on screen. They visualize it.
Yeah.
And I will take a minute right now to point out, if you're not reading the Miles Morales Spider-Man books, and if you're not reading Spider-Gwen books, you should. They're all really good.
Yeah.
Just a bit. Spider-Gwen winds up transplanting to the regular Marvel universe. Right, where she bonds with a Venom symbiote, and it becomes her suit.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a really good. You know, she's a great character. It's a good comic character, and I really, really hope that they introduce her into the MCU.
Yeah,
because they're talking about a sequel, right, for Spider-Verse, and they're going to have Tom Holland in it as his Spider-Man character.
Interesting.
Well, in the comics, the MCU is its own universe. Right. All the universes are there.
Yeah, they're valid.
So the rumor is that Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield are all going to show up in the sequel to Into the Spider-Verse, and not just as cameos, but as their Peter Parkers.
Yeah, which will be great. After that little introduction between the three of them, you see Fisk zoning out, just looking at the edge of his property, and he's having flashbacks.
Yeah, he's clicking his pen, and every click is a new like flashback popping into his head.
And you see what's really motivating him to do this. Like he.
I'd say obsessing him.
Yeah,
like he's obsessed with this. It's not.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't call this a motivation. I'd call this an obsession.
Right. Yeah, that's the next level. I mean, he was fighting against Peter Parker, and his wife and son walked in, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And then basically the Fisk's wife and son walked out of the room, got into a car, and then they got hit in traffic. So he wants to get back the parallel universes and get his family back.
That's what he wants, but he doesn't care
about the damages and the consequences that will eventually happen. Because this isn't going to work.
Right? Because and at this point, Octavius knows this because she saw that Peter B. Parker was degenerating.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And she knows that this is not going to work with Fisk's family. That they're going to die the way Peter Parker did.
Yeah.
But she lies right to his face in that scene.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh no, this is good.
Yeah.
This means it works. We can get as many of your families back as we want."
Yeah.
God, she's evil.
Yeah.
Completely amoral. I love it.
There's somebody in the scene. I don't remember if they named him. He looks like a Frankenstein, but he has guns. And he shows up again later on.
He only has one line, and I did not write down who voices him.
Yeah.
But he's the name is escaping me. He's a minor comic character.
Yeah, he's a Frankenstein with a gun, basically. But he can speak too. I mean, Frankenstein can speak as well. But
he's like on the order of the Rhino. It's kind of like an enforcer for hire.
Yeah. Frankenstein's monster. Let me clarify, because I know Frankenstein was not the actual creature that he's been.
In the comics universe, there is a Frankenstein's monster who just calls himself Frankenstein.
That is true. I have read that. The Agent of Slade. That's an interesting comic for sure.
And he just calls himself Frankenstein. So
yeah, and Fisk and Doc Ock have this conversation about the collider that he was mentioning, and he says my collider, and then Cliff is like our collider.
Yeah,
it's like he's trying to own everything. The three of them, Gwen, Peter B. Parker, and Miles, meet up with Aunt May.
Well, no, they take the bus back.
They take the bus back, and they have a good moment in the car, and was like, can we be friends, so on and so forth, and like a nice platonic, edge to Miles' relationship with Gwen.
Yeah, and it you can see behind them where Peter B. is passed out on the bench, like the back row of the bus.
Yeah, it's supposed to.
And then it like pans back, and he's just like grinning at the camera, like looking straight up, like way to go.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, that's a good way to respect and move forward. They take the bus right back, and they get dropped off somewhere in Queens, where Aunt May lives.
Because Gwen is like, I know a person who can fix this. The Goober.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so they get to Aunt May's house, and this is a great little scene where Peter B. Parker, who has buried his Aunt May, because he's like 10 years later in the job than our Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't do this. I'm not ready for this.
Yeah. I mean, and then eventually they all go inside. They see the spider shed.
Yeah. He's like, I've got a little shed where I keep my gear too. This is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And then it's like completely subverts his expectations because it opens up into what is basically the Bat Cave, but for Spider-Man.
Pretty much. It's a spider cave.
Yeah. It's 100%. It's 100% the Spider Cave. Like it's the Bat Cave is what it is.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
It's got like the car from the '60s TV series, like the 4-wheeler looking car. It's got all the different Spider-Man suits, including the Spider-Man sorcerer costume when he took on Doctor Strange's powers for a bit in the comics.
Interesting. There was one with the cape.
That's the one with the cape.
That's the one with the cape. Yeah.
And Miles opens it up and he's like, "Hey, Peter, I think this is a cape."
And then we've got some more players coming into play.
Yeah, because Aunt May is like, did you guys think you were the only ones?
So there are 3
more.
more.
Oh, no, because we have to go back. We have to go back to the Collider.
Okay.
And Miles is like, yeah, but Kingpin knows we're coming now.
Right.
And Gwen goes, we're going to be outnumbered. And Aunt May goes, don't be so sure.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so we have 3 more Spider people coming into play.
Yep.
Spider-Man Noir, who I love so much. Not only just like based on this representation, but years ago there was this game on Xbox 360 called Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions.
I remember that. I never played it, but I meant to.
You know, and one of the Spider-Man that he could play as Spider-Man Noir, which he basically plays like Spider-Man Batman, pretty much.
Well, he's from 1933.
Yes.
And he fights Nazis.
Yes.
And he is black and white. Like, he is literally black and white.
Yeah, like noir style. Like, you know, like a black and white movie.
And they could not, if they had had 3 wishes on a genie, they could not have picked a better voice actor for Spider-Man Noir than the one they got.
Sometimes I just wanted to, you know, light a match and feel it
burn down to my fingers just so I could feel something. And then the match goes out early, and he goes, "Oh, dang!" It's Nicolas Cage.
It's Nicolas Cage.
Oh god, it's stunt casting, but it's just perfect.
It's perfect.
Perfect stunt casting.
Yeah. We got Penny Parker,
who is from 3025 or something.
Something along those lines, like 1,000 years into the future.
Yeah,
you know.
and she's SP//DR. And it's this. She's anime. She's the anime Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Right. And she's like psychically bonded with a radioactive spider who lives inside her father's robot.
Yeah.
You know, and
which is all the odd, which is great.
Yeah.
You know.
And then like Peter B. Parker goes, "This could not get any weirder."
And then you say that, and then here comes Spider-Ham.
John Mulaney's voice from off screen. It can get weirder. And then a literal Looney Tunes character wanders on screen, dripping water.
Yeah.
Right? Off of his whole body.
Right.
And he's like, it can get weirder. Hi, I'm Peter Parker, the Spider-Ham. I just washed my hand. That's why it's wet. No other reason.
Yeah, it's
if anyone was born to voice a Looney Tune, it was John Mulaney.
It was John Mulaney. He did so perfect with that too.
He did.
You know, I would like when the first time that I watched this, I would have said that Penny Parker was like the weaker of all these characters, more so just based on, you know, there's not really
she's the least developed, I think.
Right. You know.
Well, no. I think Spider-Ham doesn't really get any development.
No, he's just got a lot of funny jokes. So he's a Looney Tunes character, and that appeals to Americans more so. And like, I can, my issue with Penny Parker is not really more so that, just like the nature of a spider person themselves. Like, like having a psychic link is different than like actually having the power yourself. Yeah, which is, I mean, psychic link is a power, I guess you can say. Yeah. But I really love the anime style, the fact that it doesn't like clash. Like all these different characters have a separate anime style that does not clash with the background.
Yeah,
and it's just
this is something I really wanted to get into. Now that the rest of the spider people are here, all 6 spider persons are animated differently.
Yes.
Miles Morales is animated in the way of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's 2 different types of dots in artwork. Ben-Day dots are used for the hash lines and shaders and stuff. That's what is the lighting for the film, right? And then there's the Kirby dots, which is like all the particles, all the explosions and stuff, and all the energy beams are all Kirby dots, like Jack Kirby, right? Yeah. Miles is animated with that stuff. He's part of this universe. It's subtle, but Peter B. Parker well, no, I can't get to him yet. Gwen Stacy is animated like she just stepped out of A Bug's Life or The Incredibles. She's more detail than The Incredibles, because The Incredibles was 20 years ago. But she's like old school CGI, smooth animation, something Disney would do, right? Like Frozen or Tangled, right? That's how she's animated. And if you look, the lighting on her face is not done with dots. It's done with regular lighting. Okay. Except in a couple of scenes where things are moving around a lot. But, and then the old broke-ass Peter B. Parker, is animated in sort of a combination of Miles and Gwen's animation styles, right? So he's got the dots, but he's also got the it's more clean than Miles is. It's more, it triggers the uncanny valley a little more. Spider-Ham is literally a 2D animated character drawn on top of the film.
Yes. It's so great. Like, all the cartoon effects and everything, too. Like,
he's a Looney Tune. He's literally, if someone took a Looney Tune and, like, stickered him on top of the film print, and now we have Spider-Man, and it fits. And then...
like Porky Pig has a brother or something, and he just happens to be the superhero. Like, that's precisely what this is.
He was bitten by a radioactive pig.
Yeah, which is so great. Yeah, they go into all of theirs with the comic piling ups as well.
Yeah, all the Spider people get their own intro story.
But like they're the way that it's done too is great. Like they have the screen and it's like split into 3 different ways, so they just kind of like, all right, we kind of like go through everything else, at the same time.
And it kind of shows that it's all the same story, but it's also slightly different.
Yeah.
Right. But Noir, Spider-Man, Nicolas Cage's character is, like we already talked about, monochrome. But if you look, he's also 2-dimensional.
Yeah.
Because he is drawn like a newspaper comic strip, like up to and including like really dark scribble hash lines, and there's no shade at all. It's all black, white, or gray. There's 3 colors done, right? Because he looks like a newspaper comic strip, black and white newspaper comic strip come from the 30s, come to life. Yeah. And I know this is off topic. One of my favorite lines in the movie is when he first shows up and is doing his intro. You hear Peter B. Parker's voice go, "Where's that wind coming from?" And Nicolas Cage, just without missing a beat, "Wherever I go, the wind follows."
And it always smells like rain.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's so great.
And then Penny is animated on the 3s. Now, when we say on the 2s or on the 3s, what this means is moving in an animated film, short film, Looney Tunes, cartoon, whatever. The background is animated first, and then the characters only move every other frame. Mm-hmm. This is called animating on the 2s, right? This is standard for animation. Especially, 'cause it stems from the days when you had to draw every frame by hand.
Yeah.
Right? It cut the workload in half.
Yeah.
Japanese anime, especially during the time of like Miyazaki, when he was riding super high, is animated on the 3s. Every 3rd frame is movement. Penny is animated on the 3s. Everything else in the movie is animated on the 2s.
Yeah, that's a lot to keep up with too. Like,
it's great, and if you pause it and go frame by frame, you can see, like especially like in scenes where they're all together and moving at the same time, you can see if you go 3 frames, it'll be 1 frame nobody moves, on the 2nd frame everybody but Penny moves, and on the 3rd frame Penny catches up, right? Or they don't always do it. If they always did it that way, Penny would lag behind, but they don't. So it'll be nobody moves, Penny moves, then everyone else moves, the next set of frames, right? But she's animated on the 3s like anime, and it makes her look like she just stepped out of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
and it's great that they took all of these wholly different animation styles and blended them together in such a way that it all fits.
Yeah,
but they all look just slightly unsettled or out of place, except for Miles.
Yeah,
because they are just slightly out of place.
Exactly.
But at a glance, you're not going to be able to tell.
Yeah.
But this is it's such a high attention to detail. This is probably one of the major reasons why I love this movie so much. Yeah. There's so many details. Like, who's going to care about how the characters were animated if you only ever watch it in theaters?
Right.
Like, oh, that was pretty, and then you walk away because, ooh, pretty colors.
Yeah.
But I have gone through this movie frame by frame, and it is phenomenal. They don't miss a beat.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Slash rant. I'll stop now. I had to talk about it.
You had to.
It's been boiling in me until you got to the introduction to the
I know. Like, waiting an hour in, I was like, like you finally release it, But yeah, all the Spider people that we finally meet up with all them, and Miles doesn't really have control of his powers yet, per se. He can't do the spark on command. He can't do the invisible thing on command.
Right.
It just sort of in line with his emotions more so.
Yeah,
and anything else.
The other Spider people kind of push him. He's like, I'm ready, I can help. And they all kind of jump on him. Are you ready to fight some real boys, some biscuit boxes? Is what Noir says. And like Gwen, are you ready to lose people that you care about? And Peter B. Parker knocks him down and says, are you ready for anything? And Spider-Ham, I think, hits him with a fish. He's like, are you ready for anything at all? Stuff like that.
Anything at all.
And like it's all overwhelming, and Miles is crouched down, and he's laying on his back, and I'm making hand gestures like the audience can see me.
Absolutely.
He's crouched down, and he's laying on his back. He's like, no, I can, no. And Moore does great voice acting. Because he sounds like he's scared out of his mind, but also like, no, stop, I can do this. He wants to argue, but he's too scared to.
Yeah.
Right?
He finds his way out of the room, you know, and he's like, oh, look, he can turn invisible. Because, again, with his emotions, like, he just doesn't want to feel seen. And he makes his way to Uncle Aaron's apartment.
Right.
And, you know.
This is the guy who took him to do the subway graffiti.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. About an hour beforehand.
Yeah. Uncle Aaron is great. Is a great character. I like Uncle Aaron a lot.
Absolutely. And you'll see why more so, just because he is also Prowler. Dun, dun, dun.
He Prowler busts into the apartment, and at first Miles is hiding, thinking, "Oh crap, he's coming! He's figured me out. He's coming after my uncle."
Yeah.
And then he gets a phone call because Miles turns invisible, and Prowler's right there at him. His claws like an inch from his face.
Yeah.
And ring, 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 ring. Yes, Mr. Fisk. He answers the phone. He goes, I'm on the hunt for the kid now. You know me. And he takes his mask off, and it's Aaron.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'd never let him escape. Yeah. No one ever gets away. And that moment where the score, the Prowler theme, that we talked about, the kind of filtered alarm sound, everything was real quiet during the phone call. And as soon as he takes off his mask, there's the again, and underneath it is the hip-hop theme that was playing for Uncle Aaron earlier in the movie.
Yeah. And
it's super unsettling, and it's super scary, and it really makes you feel, because Miles' eyes go, dinner place, just, oh, crap.
Yeah.
And he goes out the window, right? But he is obviously terrified. And this might be my favorite villain introduction in film history. Like, this is just a great reveal. I did not see it coming in the theaters. I remember when I was sitting in the theaters, 3 times the audience audibly gasped. Right. Yeah. The first time was when she's like, Olivia Octavius. The arms popped out. Right. Yeah. And the second time was...
It's like, oh, Doc is a woman now, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the second one was take off the mask, there's that music beat, and I never let him get away. Nobody ever escapes.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's going to be a third one, though. Probably we'll talk about later.
Yeah, that's the What's Up Danger scene.
Later, for sure. Yeah, he escapes. Prowler, is like trying to get him down.
He's chasing him to the streets.
Chasing him to the streets, and they all end up at Aunt May's spot. Penny Parker has a way to make the new Goober pretty much with all the information that they stole.
Yeah, so she's like using her robot to fuse the circuit boards and whatnot.
Which I guess like in terms of making things happen for this movie, that's the reason why she needed to be that representative. Spider person for this.
I will say,
purpose.
Penny is like 9 or 10 years old. Right, she's little.
Yeah,
and there's one scene. It's a really short little thing. I don't even know if you noticed it. Okay. Did you notice the spider in that scene?
What, inside the
robot?
Inside the robot?
Where she's got the she's inside the robot.
Yeah.
And she is her fingers are dancing across the keyboard, and the robot is like doing lasers on the little goober. Mm-hmm. And then she takes her hand off the keyboard, reaches into a bag of like gumballs or popcorn or whatever. Right? And as she does that, the spider jumps off of her shoulder and continues dancing on the keyboard where her hand was. I didn't
notice that. Yeah.
And then she stuffs it in her face and then puts her hand down and the spider jumps back up on her shoulder.
Because I did notice her snacking, but I didn't notice, those the slight details.
It's only it's like half a second long.
Yeah.
Like
that's the second link right there.
I'm not 100% certain it was supposed to be the spider, but that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because it's all like obscured by like the HUD display from the robot and stuff. But it's just, like I said, this movie...
That's the detail.
Yeah, that's the watchword for this movie: is attention to detail.
And they all meet up at Aunt May's.
Yeah, and Miles busts in, and he's like, "Oh, my Uncle Aaron, he's a Prowler. I don't know what to do. Oh my god!" And the first thing out of Gwen's mouth is "were you followed?"
Yeah.
Right? Because she's been at this, and she knows rule 1: keep your family safe.
Right.
And in her world, Aunt May is her mentor the way she was for Spider-Man, because she was Peter's best friend.
Yeah.
Right? So they kind of bonded when Peter died.
Yeah.
So keep Aunt May safe.
Yeah.
Were you followed is her first thought. And it's a good character beat.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I lost him. I'm pretty sure I lost him.
And everybody's spider sense linked up at the same time.
As you hear the Prowler music go off again in the background. And maybe I guess I was followed. Like, the Prowler kicks open the door. Right. No, it's not the Prowler. It's the Scorpion. Scorpion tears open the front door. And Miles goes to run out the back door, and there's that Frankenstein-looking dude. Mm. You really messed up, kid.
Yeah.
And then May is like, can you guys please take this outside? Right? And then the door gets blasted off its hinges by Dr. Octopus coming in. And there's like a one beat where after she opens the door and she's grinning like an idiot, and all you see is Aunt May go, "Oh, great, it's Liv." Like, which really, my friends call me Liv.
Yeah.
What history is it there? Because I love to speculate about this, because in the comics, Aunt May and Otto Octavius in the 616 universe have had kind of a romantic thing back and forth for years. Like they got married once, I think. Right? It was
the male version of the character, and now as a female version, they still say that there's still a little.
Oh,
hint.
Great! It's Liv.
Yeah, there's still a little hint. It's like there's something there.
Yeah, it's super subtle, but I love it.
I didn't notice that my first time in. Like, before we decided to do this episode, Brian brought it up to me, and I was like, "Oh, really? That's interesting." Because
you asked me, you're like, "Well, what's something about this movie that you really like?" You talk about it a lot, and that's the scene I brought up. Yeah. Oh, great, it's Liv.
Yeah.
But I will have to say, this is not something I noticed on my own. If you ever heard of a video essayist named Bob Chipman?
No,
Movie Bob?
I haven't. Oh, Movie Bob. Well, you mentioned him before.
Yeah. He did an episode of his show called The Big Picture. About "Oh, great, it's Liv."
Okay.
And that's what made me take another look at that scene, and which kind of delved me into the rabbit hole of watching this movie over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. But eventually there's a big fight that breaks out, all the spider people versus the villains that are there. And Prowler is getting on to Miles, who he doesn't know who, Miles Morales Spider-Man is yet.
Yeah, all he sees is the kid in the Spider-Man mask.
He sees the kid, and it's the same kid who, he was chasing earlier in the movie too.
Yeah.
And he meets him on the very top of the roof, got him in his, grip, and then he's panicking. He doesn't know what else to do, so Miles takes off the mask.
Yeah. He takes off the mask, and Prowler freezes. And then all you hear is this super whispered, "Please, Uncle Aaron. Yeah. Please." Yeah. And Prowler takes his mask off. Miles? Oh, shit. And then he very purposefully lets go of Miles and stands up.
Right.
And you can hear Fisk in his ear, "Finish the job. What are you doing, Prowler? Finish the job."
Yeah.
Right? And he lets go, and he puts his hands up. Like, he's like, "No, I'm not doing this. I wash my hands of this."
Yeah.
Right? And then what happens?
And then Fisk shoots him.
Yeah.
Shit kills him because he sees his weakness in him, and it was like, well, that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
And
then the gunshot goes off. Prowler collapses into Miles' arms. Miles looks down, and there's Kingpin standing in the side yard next to his limo with a smoking pistol in his hand.
Yeah.
Right? Which that pistol comes into play later, too.
Yeah. Yeah, so he escapes. He drags Prowler's body through the streets, and there are all these cops that are going by. He passed by his father, and then he lays down, Aaron. And,
in an alley. They get into an alley where they can have some privacy.
So he's having his Uncle Ben moment right now.
Yeah, and Aaron's like, "I let you down, man. I let you down. I just wanted you to look up to me, And all Miles can say is, "Uncle Aaron, Uncle Aaron." And he goes, "You're the best of all of us, Miles. You're on your way. Just keep pushing, man. Keep going forward." And he dies.
Yeah.
Right.
And then his father walks in right behind him, was like, hands up.
Yeah.
You know, so he's,
all he sees is a kid in a Spider-Man suit and a dead Prowler.
Yeah.
Right.
Like he hadn't even come close enough to the body to realize who Prowler is yet.
Yeah.
Like, you know. And then,
although I think he knew, based on something that happens a little bit later. And also earlier in the film, when they were in the car together, he's like, "Why don't you like Uncle Aaron?" And Dad's like, "Well, we all make choices in life," and it kind of drops the subject. So I suspect that he knew that Aaron was the Prowler,
maybe,
but I can't prove it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's.
I don't have any comic evidence to back up that statement.
Yeah, exactly. This is like a what? Like this is Prowler has only been in this movie, right? Like has he not been in any other comics?
He's in the comics.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in the comics. Like that, him being Uncle Aaron is in the comics.
Okay.
I don't know whether Miles' dad knew Aaron was the Prowler or not. I'm not that deep into the Ultimate Spider-Man comics.
Okay. But yeah, after that happens, you know, he turns invisible again because now he can kind of sort of control it. You know.
Yeah. Well, he can't let his dad see him.
Exactly. He can't let his dad see him. You know, standing over his dead uncle.
Yeah.
You know, and then he escapes. He sees Aaron, and then he puts out an ABB on him.
Yeah, and this is where Brian Tyree Henry really sells the vocal performance, is because he looks down and he sees Aaron, and he looks up and he's looking for Spider-Man, and he picks up the radio, and you can hear his voice crack when he's like, "I want an APB out on the new Spider-Man." Yeah. Like, there's so much emotion in that one line that it brought a tear to my eye. I'm the tear up talking about it. Yeah. He was great. Yeah. And, you know, there's... So, now, Dad thinks that the new Spider-Man killed his brother. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So, oh crap, if he hated Spider-Man before... He's really gonna hate, you know, me now, seeing as, like, thinking that I killed your brother. Yeah, and Miles just can't, even at this moment, so he just is gone. Yeah, he goes back to the school, sort of, like, have his little breakdown moment in his spot, which, there's something else, too, for the rap fans out there. There's a little nod to Chance the Rapper. He has There's a mixtape where he's wearing a hat with the number 3 on it, but in this universe, Chance the Rapper is wearing a hat with the number 4 on it. And I just thought that was a very cute nod to Chance the Rapper. I didn't notice that one. You know. Then again, I'm not steeped in hip hop culture. Yeah. I did notice that earlier in the film, I forget exactly when it is, but there's like a wide shot and there's like TVs on in the background, and there's that scene from Community where Donald Glover is wearing the Spider-Man pajamas. Yes, that's so wonderful. I think it was great. You know, people were like clamoring for Donald Glover to play Miles Morales in the MCU, and then he eventually did become Uncle Aaron. Yeah, he's Homecoming. He's Aaron Davis in Homecoming. You know, so which is great. It's so wonderful. Like the fact that everything keeps referencing each other. But this moment in the school, all the Spider people are gathered in his room. Miles finds a sketchbook and he's like, no, because he sees the no expectations thing that he showed his uncle. Yeah, exactly. And he chucks it out the window because any memory of him is toxic at this rate. So all the Spider people are there to comfort him. Yeah, we've literally all been there, Miles. Yeah. You know, for me it was my Uncle Ben. For me it was my best friend. For me it was my Uncle Benjamin. Yes. You know, for me it was my dad. You know, it was Spider-Ham has like the best line in this moment. The comic relief character, John Mulaney, delivers this line great as well, because all funny is gone in this moment except for the mask, which has eyes on the nose, and they are also crying. Yeah, which is okay. Yeah, looking back at it now, you won't notice it because it's a very emotional scene at first, but when you rewatch it, you're like, okay, that's pretty funny. Yeah, that's really funny. But he goes, the hardest thing about this job, Miles, is that you can't always save everyone. Yeah. You know, and so anyway, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. Oh no, look. We're both talking about the same thing here, pretty much. You know, and like I really enjoyed Don Mulaney's vocal performance for multiple reasons. Like that was perfect too. His best line is in the fight later, in my opinion. Yeah. Later on. Yeah. But we'll get to that in a second. We will. Eventually, the Spider people go outside of the room, and Peter B. Parker takes it upon himself, like, I'm going to take the goober, and make sure it turns off, make sure
everybody else gets back home, and I will make sure this thing is over. I was like, wait,
Yeah,
no.
because it was established earlier that they're all going to die if they don't leave the universe.
Yeah.
Right? So the original plan was for them to break into the laboratory, for them to take over the collider, send all the other spider people home, and then Miles was going to destroy the collider to save the universe. But Miles doesn't have it.
Yeah.
You know, and Peter's like, no, I'm going to stay behind and do it. Yeah. I'm going to just make sure the collider's destroyed because it has to be done.
I
you don't have it yet.
I will literally commit this suicide mission to make sure everybody else goes home, because that's basically what he's doing.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing.
That is 100% what he's doing.
And the thing is, he tells Miles directly to his face, he's like, because Miles is like, you got to tell him I can do this. You got to tell him I've got it. And he's like, but you don't have it. This wasn't their decision.
Yeah.
You're not there yet. And he says yet.
Yeah.
You know, and that's important.
Yeah.
Right? Because he doesn't just shut him down. He's not like, you're not Spider-Man.
Right.
He's like, you're not there yet.
Yeah.
Like, so I'll handle this part.
There's still an object of hope, you know, in this.
And then he goes out the window.
Somebody has to, you know, go out for relief.
Yeah, well, he's like, how will I know when I'm ready? And he's like, you won't. It's a leap of faith, Miles. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And then he's holding Miles, and Miles is like, no, I am ready. Then Venom strike me right now. Turn invisible right now on command.
And
he couldn't do it. See, you're not ready. And he ties him to the chair. He webs him to the chair, so he can't shout or go after him. And as he goes out the window, there's the rest of the spider crew is like surrounding just outside the window frame, and all of them are looking like sad and crying.
Yeah, because they're listening in, and they're rooting for him to make that decision to go with them, and you know. Yeah, you're like, come on, Miles, you can do it, Miles. You can Venom strike him right now. But he,
and they with resolution, they just go, they take off.
And then, if you weren't already crying, his father was right outside the door after all the spider people leave. And there's a knock on the door, and Dad's there's like, Miles, I tried to call you. I can see your shadow, Miles, because Miles rolls up to the door in his chair, but his mouth is webbed shut, so he can't talk. So he can't even talk. Yeah,
you know. And so there's this moment where the dad, who again Tyrese, great. Yeah, he's like, something happened with your uncle, and Miles, he's like, he obviously doesn't know what to say. Yeah, I love you. And I'm here for you.
And you don't have to say it back.
Yeah, you don't have to say it back. And that's important.
Yeah.
Right? Even though at this moment, the only thing Miles wants to do is say, Dad, it's me, open the door. Right. To get him out of this web so he can go, you know, throw himself into the fire for these spider people. Yeah. But the dad's like, you don't have to say it back. And this is great screenwriting. Yeah. Right? Because what Miles needs in this moment, for Miles, this is the lifts a heavy object moment. Like every Spider-Man origin movie has that one scene where he lifts a really heavy thing to save someone, and he doesn't quite believe he can do it until he does it. Yeah. Right? Like it happens in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man when he catches the wall and when it's about to fall on Mary Jane. He's like, this is really heavy. Yeah. Right? It happens in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man when he does basically the same thing, but I think it's like a chunk of a building. Right, when he saves Gwen. It happens in Tom Holland's Spider-Man Homecoming when the Vulture collapses the building on him and he's trapped under the rubble and he starts screaming for Mr. Stark, come help me, and he realizes nobody can help him. He has to lift this himself because in that movie he's back to his like sweatpants outfit in that scene. Yeah, and so he lifts it up. And so every movie has the moment where Spider-Man lifts the heavy thing and takes the burden of being Spider-Man on his shoulders. And his dad saying, you don't have to say it back. I'm not going to kick open this door. I'm not going to rescue you. He doesn't say this, but this is the implication. Right. I'm not going to save you from this. You know, I trust you to handle this. And his dad just thinks he's dealing with grief. His dad doesn't know what's going on. Yeah. Right? But it's a metaphor for you can handle the Spider-Man thing. You can do this. Yeah. I trust you. I believe in you. Yeah. Right? And so this is Miles' big lift a heavy thing moment. But the heavy thing he has to lift is his own confidence and his own self-doubt. He has to get out from under his own self-doubt and realize, okay, I am Spider-Man, and I'm just going to have to go with it.
Yeah, after that scene, he there's a spark in you. Like I noticed that specific choice in words.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's great.
He goes up to Aunt May. He finally gets up
He venom shocks the web.
Yeah.
After Dad says there's a spark in you.
Yeah, that whole conversation gave him the inspiration. It's like, okay, you're right. Let's do this. He goes to Aunt May. He makes his costume the way it's supposed to be.
I love Lily Tomlin's. It took you long enough. Like she knew he was going to get there.
Yeah.
She knew he was. She never doubted.
Yeah.
Right.
And there was the "What's Up Danger" scene that Brian had mentioned earlier.
Yeah. This is my favorite scene in film history.
We call it the "What's Up Danger" scene because that's the song that's playing in the background. Is "What's Up Danger."
Yeah. And I'm not even that familiar with the song.
Yeah.
But he goes to Aunt May, and Aunt May is like, "Took you long enough," and she hands him some web shooters, and then it shows him as the song is still kind of building up. Mm-hmm. It shows Miles look into the glass case where the Spider-Man suit is, and before, when he was first in the Spider Cave, he looked in that glass case where the suit was, and his head was like right at Spider-Man's chest.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't quite measure up to Spider-Man.
Not yet. Yeah.
But this time he looks at it, and the camera angles down, so his reflection is in the mask.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, no, of course you're Spider-Man. This is you now.
Yeah.
And the next shot is spray paint being shaken, and then there's a Spider-Man suit laid out that gets spray painted in black.
Yeah.
Right? And all this is interspersed with like really close-up shots of Miles' face. As he's like breathing heavy and looking in the camera. And it's obvious he's like on the side of a building.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can see the ground and stuff behind him. So he does the shot of the spray paint, and then it shows Aunt May handing them some web shooters, and they fit. She's like, it fits perfectly. Like she had already designed them and was waiting for him to show up and pick them up.
Yeah.
Right?
That's how sure she was.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it cuts back to him, and he reaches up and he pulls down the black mask. The Spider-Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man mask. And he's got the hoodie on, and he's got the spider suit, the leotard, and it's got like the spray painted spider logo and stuff on it, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's comic. Note perfect suit.
Yeah.
And this is he's breathing his breathing is getting heavier, his breathing is getting heavier as the song is getting closer to that first line, and then all of a sudden he jumps, right? And that's when you first hear "What's up, danger?" And as he jumps, the glass where his hands were shatters.
Yeah.
Because even he knows he's not quite ready for a leap of faith.
Yeah.
But he does it anyway because it's a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Like he tried to hold on for a second.
Yeah.
And then there's this like moment of dead silence, except for wind as he falls through the air. Right, he has jumped off the building, and the song kicks back in, and it zooms out to a shot where Miles is in free fall. He's falling, but the camera is inverted, so he's falling up into the sky.
Like earlier when I mentioned that this film is a film of money shots, this is the biggest of the money shots.
This is the money shot of money shots.
Yes.
This is the bukkake of money shots for this movie.
Absolutely.
And it's like, and they're like, "What's up, danger, danger?" It's like echoes as he's falling, and then it gets into the verses and the hip hop, the rapping and stuff as he shoots the web slings and catches onto the thing. And he swings through the streets, right? And the song gets louder and more bombastic as he goes, and he's you can hear him. Yeah, like he's swinging and he's having fun, and at one point he's
finally got it.
Yeah, he web shoots onto a train, holds back like to let it stretch out the web line, and then cuts it as it pulls him, so it launches him into the air, and as he goes up, he goes woo!
Yeah,
and in a callback to when he was falling off the building, it said an onomatopoeia as he was falling. It does the woo, but going up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's just he swings through the scene through the scenery a little bit. He does some flips. He like twirls around a light pole. He does the Spider-Man shtick, right? And then he gets to another building and he sees the Fisk Laboratories where the other Spider people have gone, and he's like, "Oh, that was intense." All right, and he puts the mask back down and he just jumps back off and it's like, "Okay, let's go to work." And it's only it's less than a minute. If it's a minute, it's maybe a minute 15 at the most of screen time. But it is my favorite sequence of shots in any movie ever made, ever, hands down. Right?
I think Brian likes this movie.
I think I might like this movie. Just spoiler for eventual opinion. I will say that my second favorite sequence of shots in film history is the Define Dancing from WALL-E, where he's got the fire extinguisher.
That is very nice.
Yeah, that's a great. I'm not going to get into detail, but it's a beautiful sequence. But this is, it's such an emotional high that when, and this is the third of the three moments where the audience went up gasp out loud.
This moment.
But it wasn't a gasp in the theater. I couldn't hear the sound effects, or I couldn't hear the score, or the music, because it fits perfectly, and then it shows the spray paint, and you start to hear the audience going, "Oh!" And then he yanks down the mask, and he leaps off the building, and the most detailed hands in the movie, and the glass breaks, and he's falling up into the frame. The entire audience stood up and cheered.
Yeah. Right?
And we couldn't hear the music. It was loud. It was great.
Man, I wasn't there at that screening.
It was great. The entire audience stood up and cheered. That's only happened to me twice, and both of them have been in Marvel films. The other one was when Captain America picked up Thor's hammer in Avengers Endgame. Right. And the audience stood up and cheered. But it was so powerful in that moment that it's just, I could talk about that scene for an entire podcast. We could break it down frame by frame. And I would have something to say about every frame of that scene.
So after this scene...
So moving on.
Kingpin is holding this event above the Collider.
A memorial to Spider-Man.
Yeah, which is like the shittiest thing that Kingpin could have done. Like, it's just terrible.
There's after the super high emotional "What's Up, Danger" scene, cuts back to the other Spider people, and they look in on the Kingpin doing this thing.
Exactly.
And there's this one line that you kind of need something to break the emotional high, otherwise it's just going to get to be too much.
Right.
So they give Spider-Ham a joke here. As Kingpin is doing like a eulogy for Spider-Man, Gwen Stacy goes, "Oh, what a pig."
Yeah.
And you hear John Mulaney go, "I'm right here."
Yeah, that was wonderful. Yeah.
It's a little like a break in the flow,
yes,
but it needed to be right there. It was probably the best deployed joke in the movie as far as like timing of the joke itself.
And of course, like the rest of the Spider people don't know that Miles is planning to be there.
Yeah,
I mean, because that's what we would have assumed as an audience that's going to happen, which it will. The other Spider people are just like, wait a minute, but all the wait staff, they have Spider-Man masks on. It can't be that easy. And then cut. They're sending, pushing this tray of bread and drinks and such. It's like, it is that easy.
Yeah. It was Nick Cage goes, "It can't be that easy." And then it's Peter B. Parker goes, "It is that easy."
It is that easy. Let's do it. Everybody's there.
Penny's under the tray.
Yeah.
Like, the tray is not actually a tray. It's Penny and her spider bot. It's like she's holding up the...
Which is the only way you could, sneak in with that costume. Peter B. Parker sees, Mary J. MJ. And it's not her MJ.
Well, it is MJ. I mean, it's identical MJ, just younger.
Right. Exactly. But, different universe, too. And,
voiced by Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah.
In this movie, who she's not in it a lot, but she does well.
Yeah.
She's only got 2 scenes where she speaks. It's the televised, "My husband was Spider-Man, and anyone can be a hero if they need to be," and that was his speech.
And then this scene that I'm going to describe now, Peter B. Parker sees her, and then Gwen is just like, "Oh no, don't talk to him. It's not your Gwen Stacy. It's over. We're done. We're not gonna."
Mary Jane.
Mary. That's what I said.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. It's not. That's not your Mary Jane.
Yeah.
It's not your MJ. Don't do anything. And then, she comes up to him and was like, hey, can I get more bread at table 12? And, like, this is the moment Peter B. Parker, in his mind, he's setting himself on the suicide mission. He's sending the rest of the spider people home, and he's going to stick around, and he's going to just, and then this is his last moment to talk to Mary Jane. Like, we will get you the bread that you deserve.
Oh, because earlier in the movie, the reason for his divorce was that she wanted kids and he didn't. He wasn't ready. Right. So this is what I'm going to give you the bread.
Give you the bread that you deserve.
Yeah.
And eventually they found their way out of there. Gwen was just like, we're not going to get them bread. We're not going to get.
He's like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm good. Good, because we're not getting bread.
Yeah, we're not getting bread. We're going to move on from that emotional moment for you, and
it cuts straight to the collider, right?
Yeah, cut straight to the collider. Everything is happening. I didn't make a lot of notes in this section. I was more so just paying attention to the movie and not really.
Okay, well, it cuts to the collider scene, and they're doing a they have hair extracted from a comb, right? Okay. And it's like David and Vanessa Fisk DNA extraction complete. They load it up and they start raising it into the collider stream to try and. Scaling dimensions for DNA matches, right? Because this is what Fisk wants to do. He's trying to bring his son and wife back.
Yeah.
So the spider people show up, and Fisk at this point is one of the scientists turns to him and says, "It's unstable. It's not going to work. It's going to cause a black hole and destroy the city." Right. And Fisk says, "Shut up and turn it up farther."
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't care anymore. He wants this to happen.
He wants this done. He doesn't care about the consequences. All the spider people, say that 5 times fast.
Yeah.
Get into a kerfuffle with Dr. Octopus and, Scorpion and the Frankenstein character,
and then a couple of goons, a bunch of goons were shooting.
Yeah, a bunch of goons.
And Peter B. Parker is fighting Octavius.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And she's kind of got him a little bit on the ropes.
Yeah.
Like he has tried to put the override key in the slot a few times now up on the ceiling of the collider, and he's like, "Why is this always so difficult?" As she drags him away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Eventually, she has him in a hole, and she's about to just end everything and kind of win the whole situation, and then Miles Morales comes around and grabs one of her arms and starts hitting
He's
her
invisible.
With it. Exactly.
All you see is her make a fist, and then it pushes her in the face.
Yeah, and I was like, oh god, this is so perfect. There's a great moment, for Miles to swoop in, and everybody else just kind of realized oh my gosh, he's he's here.
Yeah.
He's finally here to do this. Everybody, it's just a wonderful
he swings out. And he swings back on a stretch web sling, and he comes in for a massive kick to Octavius's face. Yeah. And as he decloaks himself and kind of winks at Peter B. Parker, he goes, "Miles?"
Yeah.
And then smash, and then he turns visible again to keep fighting somewhere else.
Gwen Stacy sees him, Spider-Gwen, sees him in his new outfit, and was like, "I like the outfit, thank you, made it myself," so on and so forth, little things like that.
And in that moment, he catches Gwen as she's about to fall into the collider.
Yes, that's it.
Miles does. And he's sticking to a thing, and he's holding Gwen. And she's like, "I like your outfit." He's like, "Thanks, I made it myself." And then a web line comes down and grabs him and starts pulling him up. Mm-hmm. And Peter B. Parker's like, "You kids are adorable! Now let's get back in the fight!"
Yeah, that's it. Eventually, everybody wins against their own opponent.
And this is where those Kirby dots really come into play. This is all the energy beams are all dots. It's all dots on the film.
Yeah.
But it's done so well, and it never takes you out of the scene.
Yeah.
It just looks completely like it fits in this world.
Yeah.
And it's so many colors and so pretty. It's a bigger acid trip than the Willy Wonka boat ride, but it's handled so much better that you don't notice it's an acid trip until the scene is over and everything is black, and you're like, oh, God.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's the end of it.
Yeah. I'm coming down.
That's it. Eventually, Miles Morales says goodbyes to all of the other spider people. Penny, she lost her robot companion.
Yeah, fighting Scorpion. This is Spider-Ham's, I think, best line in the movie is Scorpion has like ripped off the robot's arm,
Yeah.
and his tail has busted through the robot's face.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pulled Penny out of the robot, and an anvil comes out of nowhere and smashes his head. And he just turns around and he looks at Spider-Ham and he starts laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "What are you, some kind of silly cartoon?" And Spider-Ham, "You got a problem with cartoons?" And then he pulls a hammer.
Why did he give him a Russian accent?
I
He's
don't know.
Spanish.
Was it Spanish?
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
European.
I default to a Russian accent when I do fake accents.
He's like John Malkovich.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's my fault.
Keep going.
And Spider-Ham pulls a hammer out of nowhere, smashes him across the face with it, right? And then Penny, and as he's falling backwards, Penny swings the robot arm and smashes him forward.
Yeah.
And then Noir is there and just decks the hell out of him.
Yeah, they all team up on him.
Yeah, and as he falls down, Spider-Ham is holding the hammer, and he's like, "Does that feel like a cartoon?"
There you go.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, there is a word for what he did with the hammer there. I don't know if you're up on your Looney Tunes lore, right? But the Looney Tunes are also in the comics universe, in another universe, and they get their powers from something called the Toon Force. It's actually the same thing that gives the Mask his powers. Jim
That
Carrey,
makes sense. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The Toon Force. And when a character in a cartoon pulls something out of a pocket or out of just nowhere
Right.
that is way too big to fit in whatever orifice they pulled it from, that's called pulling something from hammer space. Which is why it was a hammer that he pulled out and not like a brick or an anvil or a sword or whatever.
Huh.
It's just a cute little reference to the Looney Tunes cartoons. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, he says goodbye to everybody.
He's like, "I want you to have this hammer. It can fit in your pocket."
Spider-Man Noir takes home a Rubik's Cube because he can't see color the same way everybody else does.
He's like, "I don't know what this cube is,
you know,
but I will."
but I will. He goes back with that. Gwen, they promise to just be friends, and they shake hands, and that was wonderful. Like, that was great.
And Gwen goes back to her universe, so now we're left with Miles and Peter B. Parker. And this is when Kingpin shows up.
Yeah, he's like, "What's going on here? Let me figure something out here."
Well, no, Kingpin shows up outside with a gun. He's like, "Spider-Man!"
Right.
And immediately, without hesitation, Peter B. Parker's like, "I'll handle this. Blow up the collider. Don't wait for me."
Yeah.
Right? And so he goes to swing off. And he gets stopped by another web line, and Miles pulls him back. He's like, "You gotta go home, man."
Yeah.
And he does the same kick move that Peter B. Parker did to him in his dorm room.
Yeah.
When he's like, "Venom, strike me right now."
Yeah.
And he's holding him over the collider. He's like standing on a building, holding him out over the energy matter stream. And
you don't even have the goober. And I was like, "Well, watch the..."
Yeah, he holds up the goober with and he goes, "Watch the mouth, not the hands." Which is a great callback. And Peter's like, "How will I? You got to get back to your MJ, man."
Yeah. And
Peter's like, "Well, how will I know when I'm ready?" And Miles goes, "You won't." And then Peter goes, "You're right. It's a leap of faith."
Yeah.
And at this point, he lets go, and the Peter B. Parker goes, "Not bad, kid," as he falls into the matter stream. And what was really telling, and this is something I meant to mention a second ago, I forgot. Before Gwen fell into the matter stream,
right,
she goes, "Good luck, Spider-Man," looking directly at Miles, right? And that's the first time any character has called him Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Doc Ock sort of did earlier, but she was looking at Peter B. Parker when he showed up as invisible,
right.
And she's like, "Spider-Man, wham!" So it's all confused. But this is the first time a character has looked at Miles, taken Miles in, and said, "You are Spider-Man."
Yeah.
Right. And so when Peter B. Parker's like, "Not bad, kid, not bad," and then poof, he's gone.
Yeah.
Right? So all the Spider people have gone home.
Yeah. It's just Miles Morales in his universe versus Fisk, and they're fighting. And this is a wonderful fight scene too. The entire environment is just animated so wonderfully.
There's buildings. There's buildings flowing in and out of
buses,
each other. The universes are colliding. At one point during the fight, before they all went away, they were all fighting Doc Ock, and she like shrugs off all their attacks and starts laughing at him. And it's Peter, B, and Gwen and Miles all land and turn to face her. And Gwen goes, "Buckle up, boys. This is going to take a while." And then just a truck comes in. Smash!
Oh yeah, smash her. I was like, oh, I guess
not.
Yeah.
And that's the last we see of Doc Ock.
That's it. Yeah, we don't even know really what happened.
That bus knocked her out of the film.
Really did.
Alright, so so she exits the film just smashed by a truck, right?
Yeah.
And it's great. And so he's now all the other Spider-Persons are gone, and it's just Miles versus Fisk. And the first thing Fisk does is pull out the same pistol that shot Uncle Aaron.
Yeah.
And I remember in the theaters, I had a moment where Miles was going to freeze. I thought Miles was going to freeze, and he doesn't. He leaps into the air, and he goes, "Nah, as he dodges a bullet, and he web shots the gun and pulls out his hand and goes, "That's cheating."
Yeah.
Right? Which is such a Spider-Man line.
Yeah. Like he's really coming into it.
Now, yeah. This is his ascension into Spider-Man. It's great. And so they're bashing each other back and forth. And
his father is watching all this.
Yeah, because his father's been like evacuating people from the building. Yeah. Right? He was there as a cop because the whole city is shaking and like there's other dimensional stuff popping up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the whole city is glitching like the Spider people were.
Yeah.
And did you notice during the fight that Miles glitched? At one point, Fisk smashes him, and when he hits the ground, he glitches for just a second.
Huh.
In the exact same way that the spider that bit him glitched. So there's a part of him that is glitching, right? But it never really comes up because it's something that he overcomes.
Yeah.
But it really kind of calls back to the glitching. This is Kingpin hit him so hard that maybe he knocked the confidence out of him, kind of a thing. So they're fighting, and you close your notebook. Is everything?
Oh no, you're good. Yeah, I mean, there's not really a lot for me to go back on the notes like that. Like again, I have a couple things. Like I mentioned, his father was watching him. He's cheering him on now.
Yeah, come on, Spider-Man, come on.
Because you were thinking like earlier, Spider-Man killed my, brother, and then now all this is happening, and now he's seeing what kind of person Spider-Man really is.
Yeah.
And how he's cheering him on.
Yeah, and it's at this point that Kingpin is like, the real Spider-Man couldn't even beat me, and smashes the kid to the ground, and then Miles is like, you're never going to get your family back. It's not going to work. Yeah. No, he doesn't say that. He says...
well, he's reliving his trauma during the fight, too. Like, we're going through a scene.
Because he's fighting Miles, and the family shows up.
Yeah.
And they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
The exact same thing that happened like in his flashback when they saw him beating up Peter Parker. And they run off into the subway car and back into the dimensional vortex.
Yeah.
He's like, no, come back, stay with me. And he turns around, and there's Miles is laying on the ground, and he's like, you cost me my family, so now I'm going to make sure you never see yours again.
Yeah.
And he rears up, and I thought in this moment that Miles is going to dodge out of the way and continue the fight, but he doesn't. He smashes down with both hands in the same move that killed this universe's Spider-Man. Smashes Miles into whatever stones they're standing on, right? And everything goes quiet for a second, and Fisk is just standing there breathing heavy. And then it cuts to the dad, and all you hear is, get up, Spider-Man. Get up, Spider-Man. And then you hear it echoing, right? Yeah. And it, like, from Miles' perspective, it's all distorted, but he hears it, get up, Spider-Man, get up. And so there's his dad is calling him Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
And he gets up, and he's like...
Yeah, second person who's calling him Spider-Man.
Yeah. And he gets up, and he's kind of like struggles to get up, and Fisk is still standing there breathing heavy, like, how is this kid getting up? I just smashed his whole torso.
Yeah.
Right? Because Fisk's fists are the size of Miles's, body. Like, Fisk is not a small dude.
No, not at all.
And this is one of the final callbacks in the movie is where Miles goes, hey, have you ever heard of the shoulder touch?
Uh-huh.
And Fisk is like, the what?
Yes.
And Miles puts his hands out and goes, "Hey," and just shocks the ever-loving crap out of him with a Venom Strike.
That's so wonderful.
Like, and it hits him so hard, and he keeps the Venom Strike going through his web line.
Yeah.
As Fisk is blasted away, and he shoots him and catches him in the web line, right? And swings him around a couple times, and it kind of cuts to a shot of the ceiling where there's the key is in the thing. You got to push the button to blow up the collider.
Yeah.
Hey, Kingpin, push the green button for me.
Yeah.
Throws him up into the button.
It's so perfect.
Right. And the collider goes boom, and everything, like it zooms out to a wide shot of the city, the same one from the What's Up Danger scene that Miles had jumped off of, and it shows where the entire Fisk laboratory is just a mushroom cloud.
Yeah.
Right. It's gone. Right.
Yeah. Everything is back to normal. There's no more glitching. No more outstanding artifacts.
Yeah. There's a couple of artifacts because it's at this point that oh no, it was earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
Where this weird mishmash of light poles and stuff, and somebody was like, "I think it's a Banksy."
Yeah.
But it zooms back in, and Spider-Man is hanging from a web line, kind of clenched around himself, and he hears coughing, and he turns and looks, and his dad is crawling out from under some rubble.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And his dad kind of looks up at him, and by the time he looks up at him, he's gone.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if he went invisible or if he swung away, but all that's left is just a web line dangling there. Right? And then the next scene is down on the street. Right? The dad is helping police get people. He's putting the Scorpion in his squad car, right, in the back of a squad car, and along with the Frankenstein dude.
Mm-hmm.
And his phone rings. It's Miles.
Yeah.
Right? And Miles is up on the roof looking down on him, talking on the phone. And he's like, Miles, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Look, you're probably busy, so... No, I can talk.
Yeah.
Standing in the crime scene.
Standing in the crime scene. Everything where he should be the most busy.
Yeah, but he stops everything to talk to his son, which is exactly what Miles needed to see.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, I don't remember exactly. It doesn't really matter what was said in that moment. He's like, "Your Uncle Aaron." He's like, "I know, Dad. I know. I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And then he hangs up. And Spider-Man swings down. And he stands there and he's looking at the cop and he's like, "Thank you for your bravery tonight."
Yeah, he put on this tough voice to,
Yeah, and he hugs him. He hugs him. He runs up to him and the first thing he does is put his dad in a big hug.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this look in his eye where he's like, "Oh." I can't prove it.
Yeah.
But I swear to you, his dad in that moment figures out that it's Miles.
I don't think. I disagree with this only because it follows that up with him saying "I love you."
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man, saying like, "We'll look forward to working together." And it was like, "That's great. I love you." And I was like, "What?" That's
the moment where. See, to me, that's the moment where I think he figured it out. Because I love you, and he's gone.
Yeah.
Right? He goes, "What?"
Yeah, that moment he might have figured it out beforehand.
So, I mean, I think that if the dad doesn't know he's Spider-Man, he's close to figuring it out.
Yeah.
Right? I think the dad, if he didn't know, he suspected when he was saying, "Get up, Spider-Man, get up."
Maybe.
So, and then after Spider-Man leaves, right? On the phone, he's talking about we can go to a privately funded wall at the police station, and you can throw up some of your artwork.
Yeah.
Right. So he's trying to reach his son on the level that his son wants to be talked to. He's like his character arc is complete. He's like, okay, well, this is how I need to relate to my son on my son's wavelength. I can't just expect him to be a mini me anymore.
Absolutely.
Right. It's great. And then smash cut to Miles Morales' introduction as Spider-Man,
with
the comics showing up,
which is the last callback.
Yeah, it's the last callback in the movie, and it's like, hey, my name is Miles Morales, and for the last 2 days I've been Spider-Man, but I'm not the only one. Yeah. Anyone can wear the mask. It's not about the mask, and he swings up, and he swings into the camera, and he's kind of free falling, and he puts his arms back behind his head, and then it cuts to him in his bed, laying back, listening to Post Malone again, that same song. And at this point, the ending credit theme is starting to roll, and as it fades out, a bunch of beignet dots show up, and or beignet dots, or Kirby dots. I'm sorry, Kirby dots show up, and it's a dimensional portal, and you hear Gwen's voice going, "Miles, hey Miles, got a minute?" And then it cuts to credits as Miles grins up at the camera, and then the credits are this super trippy. When I said every frame in this movie was a painting, I'm definitely including the credits.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's this super trippy hip hop infused run through.
Well, like the first credits.
Yeah, and even the second credits were like the scrolling credits were had some great visuals in the background, but run through all the Spider-Man, and it's like there's a million copies of Spider-Man, and there's a million universes, and so there's like an entire punk rock band full of Gwen Stacy's, and there's an entire mosh pit full of Spider-Man noirs. It's like, and there's so many different little things as the credits roll, and then it cuts after the credits roll, as is expected in a Marvel movie. There's an after credits scene.
Yes,
right, and this is really awesome. I don't know who at Sony was able to sneak the memeiest Spider-Man meme ever into the Spider-Man animated movie, but I am so glad they did.
Yeah, it was so perfect.
It cuts to Spider-Man 2099, played by
I'm also familiar with because he was also in Shattered Dimensions, which is why I was a little bit disappointed that he wasn't one of the Spider features.
Well, he's going to be in the second one.
Exactly. Like after the end credits, I was like, okay.
Yeah,
you know,
because it's his tech that allows them to dimensional hop without glitching.
Right.
But it's he's voiced by
Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, that's his name, Poe from the Star Wars sequels.
Yeah,
I could not remember his name.
Yeah.
And he's talking to his computer character or his like computer hologram partner, and about okay, well let's do this again. And she's like, well, where do you want to jump to? And he goes, I have an idea. Let's jump to 66. Cut to, he appears in the original Spider-Man animated series. Like, with the really blocky pictures. It's like Hanna-Barbera style animation. And it's like, he's standing there. He's like, I need to talk to you, Spider-Man. And Spider-Man goes, it's rude to point. And he points at him. And they're pointing at each other. And it's the Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man meme.
Yeah.
Right there at the end of the movie. And, when I was in the theater, most people didn't stay for that scene.
I'm sure,
But the ones that were there laughed the whole way out of the theater.
That's a guffaw, for sure.
Yeah, anyone who knows Spider-Man memes at all, who's at all, into meme culture, has seen the Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man meme. I say it all the time when I'm doing my live streams. Like, when I'm playing Magic, and I'm playing a similar deck to what my opponent is playing, if we have the same opener of, like, Island...
it's rude to point,
or no, if I go island creature and he goes island same creature, I'll go Spider-Man pointing Spider-Man, Spider-Man pointing Spider-Man. Yeah, and my chat loves it when I do that.
Yeah.
Because this is such a popular meme, and it is the end credit stinger, and it is tonally the perfect end cap to what has been a hell of a journey for this movie. Look, as I've said before, this is my favorite. It's I don't know. I don't want to say it's my favorite movie. It's definitely my favorite animated movie. But I tend to not have a general favorite film.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I tend to keep it in a top 3 or a top 5, rotating. But ever since I first saw this movie, Into the Spider-Verse has not left my top 3 favorite movies at all.
Yeah.
Nothing. I could be in the hospital, dying of kidney failure, and if the doctors are like, we're going to have to do a kidney transplant, and somebody's watching Spider-Verse, I'm like, I'll wait. They're watching Spider-Verse. It's like, this is I love this movie. I'm in love with this movie.
I mean, it's an outstanding feature for sure. Like, it's so technically perfect. It's performed very well, and it has all these emotional nuances that that perfectly. Like, it's, based on like the minute little grabs that I had, I'm gonna have to give it a 9.
Okay.
But I'm giving it a 9.
Yeah, I mean 9 out of 10,
10
is
you know, it's not.
well, what
It's not bad.
The biased opinion that I hold.
I see his face is like, oh God, Keith, what's wrong with you?
I can't. Well, it's like I rated Uncut Gems pretty low. You know.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean,
but I cannot think of anything wrong in this movie.
And there's not really.
Why do you call it a 9 instead of a 10? I'm genuinely. I'm not arguing. I'm just genuinely asking for your opinion.
Right. I mean, I really couldn't even put to words. Honestly. Why this is not a 10 for me, and instead stays at a strong 9.
So it just sort of feels like a 9. There's
it just
nothing
feels like
specific
a 9,
that pops out at you.
It doesn't really. I don't know how to put this. I don't know. It's just a 9.
I mean, I can respect that. You know, it's difficult to say something is perfect.
You know,
right? Perfect means without flaw.
And it's not even the fact that whether or not like flaws. Like this film is not flawed in any case, you know.
Well, like I said, I cannot think of a specific flaw in this movie. You know, I love well, okay, that's not true. And even this isn't really a flaw. The only flaw that I can think of in this movie is that I wish there was more of it. You know?
Right, yeah, that's not a flaw.
You know, but then again, if it had been much longer, like the original screenplay, that
would have definitely
the original screenplay was 2.5 hours long.
And see, that's too much. And like this is so perfectly paced too. Like
yeah,
I noticed in my notes, like I had to write down something new like every 2-ish minutes.
Yeah,
you know, something was happening. It's not like nothing was happening for a long period of time. And like that end of 20 minutes where I wasn't really making any notes was because I was just watching the movie at that rate.
Yeah,
like
just absorbed in the story.
You know, like everything else has already happened really, and there's not really like any huge developments past that. It's just a one big great action scene, and then the emotional layoffs afterward.
Yeah,
like it's paced perfectly well.
Yeah, and there's. Well, like you said before, this is a movie comprised entirely of money shots.
Yes.
Every shot in this movie would make someone's career.
Yeah.
You know, and it's...
It probably has.
Probably. I mean, this movie it's definitely my favorite superhero film, hands down. It's definitely my favorite animated film, hands down. Close second being Secret of Nim. But I'm always going to be a softie for Don Bluth. Yeah. So, you know, like I love Dragon's Lair. I would love to get a Dragon's Lair, like arcade machine.
Yeah.
But the problem is the actual Dragon's Lair game was run off Laserdisc, so they're like, $10,000 now.
Yeah, it's hard to find.
But I love animation, and this is without question number one with a bullet my favorite animated movie ever made.
Yeah.
I'm hyping it up too much. I'm hoping the sequel lives up to it.
Yeah, and that's my issue too, of like whether or not there's talks about sequels and spin-offs and such. It's like, oh, well, I mean, it's not really going to downplay the quality of the original anyway, just based on but it's I don't know. There's just this competitive nature to continuing your vision, and I hope it will succeed.
Well, they've definitely talked about a sequel. They've already started casting the sequel.
Yeah. Right?
Like all the main cast is returning, and Oscar Isaacs is coming in as 2099. What is his name? I don't remember the character name, but it's him.
It's okay.
They're also talking about a series of animated short films, or like an animated short series of Spider-Ham and his adventures as a reporter and as Spider-Man, starring John Mulaney, which I'm looking forward to. And people are really pushing for Spider-Gwen to show up in the MCU alongside Miles because
eventually
they're going to bring Miles Morales into the MCU.
Happen.
You know, they've already got the Prowler.
Yeah.
Right. Well, he's not the Prowler yet.
I know what you mean, but they can make him the Prowler, and like they're already bringing, the multiverse into it. Yeah. Eventually, so.
They hinted at it with Far From Home.
Yeah.
Right. But there really is a multiverse in Marvel Comics, and they've talked about it some on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which the canonicity of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is questioned at this point, but they've talked about alternate dimensions on there. So I'm really hoping that like, the rumor is that, like I said, Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland and the kid from Pleasantville, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Oh, Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire. His name was falling out of my head. They're all rumored to show up, and not just as cameos.
It took me back. You called him a kid. I was like, wait a minute.
I'm sorry. As cameos in Spider-Verse 2.
Yes, of course.
Or as more than cameos. Mm-hmm. So I'm really looking forward to that. I really hope that they are at least as big a part in Spider-Verse 2 as Spider-Ham was in this one.
Yeah.
Right? And Spider-Ham and Penny kind of got the short shrift of, like, screen time and stuff. Like, none of them were ill-served as characters.
Right.
But you can't... Not everyone can be the focus.
Yeah.
Right? And Nicolas Cage might have had the least amount of actual bits to himself, but he stole every scene he was in this movie. So you don't notice that he, But I really hope they bring, Holland and Maguire and Garfield in to do their roles and say, and to talk about it. And I would love to see Shamik Moore play a live action version.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I don't know if visually he fits the
see.
Thing too much.
We'll see.
But I mean, a lot can be done with CGI.
Yeah.
Like Miles Morales was originally modeled after a combination of Moore and Donald Glover. Like, in the movie.
Right.
And also, like, supposed to look like his comic counterpart.
Yeah.
Right. So that's, there's definite, like, even the little background tidbits are fan service, because there was that huge clamor for Donald Glover to play Miles Morales in the MCU. And so they sort of modeled their Miles Morales after Donald Glover.
Yeah.
But, okay, so you give this movie a 9 out of 10. You would rate it as a definite must-see.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I would say, without hesitation, I'd give this movie a 10. I mean, you're going to have a heart attack and die from Not Surprised over there.
Yeah, we've only been talking about this movie for 2 hours.
Jesus, has it been 2 hours? Doesn't feel like it. Yeah. But yeah, this to me is a perfect movie. This is one of my favorite films, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. Every time I watch this movie, I spot new things.
Yeah.
If I had to go on a desert island and I could only take one movie with me to be my entertainment on that desert island, it would be Spider-Verse. Because I can watch it over and over and over again. And there's always something new to see. There's so many layers to this movie. Yeah. So yeah, I have been gushing about Spider-Man for 2 hours now.
Yeah, that's it. That's it for the both of us. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Doop Movie Podcast.
Yep, the Democratic Order of Podcasters. I've been Brian.
I've been Keith.
And you guys are all awesome.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.